She never expected her last morning to begin under orange leaves and sweet New York sunlight. She wore a silk scarf the color of falling petals, walked with a grace people noticed, and clutched coffee in both hands like warmth itself. Strangers who passed her likely thought, "There goes someone who's going places." And in her mind, she was. She just didn't know someone had already decided where she'd end up. The morning air curled cool off the Hudson River, soft with autumn mist and the quiet rhythm of routine. Joggers passed along the old wooden path near Pier 84, earbuds in, coffee cups in hand, thinking about meetings, podcasts, and errands, all unaware that behind them, just beyond the railing, something shimmered on the surface of the water. At first glance, it was nothing. A stray ribbon maybe, some discarded trash glinting in the soft orange of sunrise. But then a runner stopped, looked again, and saw the unmistakable brilliance of diamonds catching light. When police arrived, they didn't know what they were dealing with. The object floating just offshore appeared to be wrapped carefully, almost lovingly, in luxurious silk, the kind few could afford. But inside that silk was not a gift. It was the lower torso and legs of a woman, severed with unsettling precision, the diamond bracelet still clinging to her wrist. Just hours later, the city would have a name, Imani Roswell, and within days, 1,000 theories would follow. Before we dive deeper into this unforgettable video, make sure to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon. That way, you'll never miss any new coming videos like this. Now, let's get back to it. For detectives, it wasn't the body alone that was chilling. It was the contradictions. This wasn't a mugging or a random disposal. It was too careful, too softened by silk and sparkles. Someone had wanted to send a message. Someone with a deep understanding of grief, rage, and the kind of twisted love that doesn't let go until it's destroyed everything in its path. Across the city, headlines screamed, "River of Secrets," from queen to corpse, silk and blood. But none of them told the full truth. Not about the man who had once loved her more than life. Not about the choices that led her from a university lecture hall to a penthouse in Dubai and a quiet, deadly storage unit in Queens. Those truths would take time, and what they revealed would shake the city to its core. She was born Imani Martinez, daughter of a school teacher and a taxi driver who had immigrated from Argentina when she was 12. From a young age, she stood out, not just for her intelligence, but for the way she carried herself, with quiet ambition and a sense that life held more for her than what surrounded her. She spoke 3 languages before graduating high school, breezed through college, and by 24, she was enrolled in a master's program in international relations at Columbia University. That's where she met David Roswell. David was 5 years older, auditing weekend classes in network systems while working full-time as a systems administrator in Midtown. On paper, they had nothing in common. He was quiet, practical, rooted in a working-class upbringing in Ohio. She was elegant, confident, drinking espresso while writing papers on foreign policy. But in the huddled stillness of the campus library, overshared frustrations about formatting papers, something rare began. He helped her with graphs and citations. She laughed at his corny jokes. Study sessions turned into late-night pancakes at diners, hands lightly brushing across sticky booth tables, and slowly, they built their own quiet world. David admired her in a way that bordered on worship. She was his dream, a woman with fire, ambition, and purpose. He began taking on extra shifts, saving money not for himself, but for her books, her needs, her future. When she worried about her growing student loan debt, he said, "I've got us." When he proposed, it was humble, a modest ring, a moment between bookshelves where their story began. She hesitated, then smiled and said yes. They married in a downtown courthouse ceremony with a borrowed suit and shoes that pinched. For David, it was the proudest day of his life. For Imani, it was another stepping stone on a much larger journey. At first, they made it work. She cooked Argentine dinners she learned from her mother. He bought her roses on Fridays. Nights were filled with whispered dreams about Central Park apartments and plane tickets without layovers. Neither of them imagined how far those dreams would push them apart, or how one of them wouldn't survive the journey. After graduation, the thread of their fairy tale began to fray. The pandemic had strangled job markets, especially in diplomacy and international relations. Government was frozen. NGOs were downsizing. Imani, with her exceptional credentials, kept getting rejection letters that started with "unfortunately." David, meanwhile, anchored their survival. His tech job became the sole lifeline. Promotions came slowly, but he embraced the grind, taking on freelance gigs to cover the rent, the loans, the groceries. For months, neither said it aloud, but the silence between them grew heavier. Gone were the lazy Sunday breakfasts. Imani stopped cooking, stopped sleeping regularly, stopped smiling. Her nights were filled with restlessness, her days with applications and online forums filled with voices landing dream jobs overseas. She started going out more, networking events, alumni mixers, cultural talks at consulates across Manhattan. David encouraged her. She needed this, needed hope. He trusted her completely for a while. Then came the late-night phone calls behind closed doors. The second phone with no explanation. The dresses that couldn't have come from discount racks, the perfume he didn't recognize, the expensive heels she claimed were borrowed from an old roommate. David noticed all of it, tucked it away, told himself it was stress, maybe depression, maybe burnout. He tried to reach her with surprise dates, weekend getaway ideas, whispered reminders that he believed in her. But she kept slipping further away. One evening, she came home radiant after an event at the consulate. Her eyes sparkled like they used to. She told him it was a promising night, that she met interesting people. David asked for details. She smiled vaguely, kissed his cheek, and changed the subject. That night, when she thought he was asleep, she scrolled on her phone for over an hour, smiling at messages he never saw. It wasn't just that she was drifting. It was that she seemed to already be elsewhere, emotionally living in a different version of her life, one where David didn't exist. And somewhere across that emotional ocean, a man neither of them had met yet was waiting. But when he finally arrived, he didn't just change everything. He set something fatal in motion. He appeared first as a name on an invitation. Sheikh Abdul Al-Zamani, a guest speaker for a policy lecture at Columbia, representing a Gulf-backed international development group. Imani volunteered to help organize the event. It was routine, professional, practical, until she met him. Tall, refined, educated in Oxford and fluent in quiet charisma, Sheikh Abdul wasn't just rich, he was powerful in a way that didn't feel showy. It was in his stillness, in the way people leaned in when he spoke. That night, after most of the audience cleared out, he and Imani talked for over 3 hours. They discussed oil politics, post-colonial governance, and Buenos Aires street art. He called her brilliant. She felt seen for the first time in months. It started innocently. A book arrived at their apartment with a handwritten note, "Thank you for your insight." Then flowers. Orchids she didn't know how to explain. Then an invite, private viewing at the Met, followed by dinner at a restaurant she'd once walked past with longing but never dared enter. She told David it was professional, a mentor connection. He believed her. He wanted to believe her. That night, as she sat across from Abdul under gold lighting and crisp linen, sipping wine she couldn't pronounce, she felt something she hadn't in ages: ease, possibility, hunger for more. He didn't press. He didn't make any promises. But between courses, as he traced global development opportunities in Dubai with casual confidence, he painted scenes of her life not as it was, but as it could be: rooms filled with diplomats, speeches before delegates, weekends in places people only read about. He never mentioned David. And maybe that was the most seductive part, being seen as her own chapter, not someone's wife. When she returned home that night, she kissed David on the forehead and told him it had been fine. But inside, another version of herself had awakened. One that had no intention of disappearing. One that looked around their apartment and understood, for the first time, she could have left already. But the question wasn't if she would. It was how, and how far she'd be willing to go. The double life began as cautiously as it did confidently. Imani convinced herself every step had a reasonable explanation. Meetings, mentorship, career discussions. Each excuse was soft, polished, and rehearsed. But as the weeks passed, those meetings turned into late dinners, then overnight trips. The second phone she kept off at home became a trusted companion. She started leaving the apartment wearing one outfit and returning in another, with fragrances unfamiliar to David but familiar to Abdul. The shift wasn't just emotional, it was material. Designer handbags, tailored dresses, jewelry David knew they couldn't afford. His questions were met with breezy lies. My mother sent it. It was on clearance. Carmen let me borrow it. David noticed. He always noticed. The nights she came home humming softly to herself. The sudden obsession with always keeping her laptop locked. The way she flinched when he touched her shoulder while she was texting. The intimacy between them, once quiet and burning, now flickered like the last light of a candle. There were weeks without closeness, without conversation that dipped below surface. And when David asked if everything was okay, she would sigh, kiss him absent-mindedly, and say, "Just tired." What he didn't know was that she was tired of trying to shrink herself into a life that never fit. With Abdul, she was alive, adored, treated not as someone's future, but as someone who had already arrived. He took her to private art galleries, where conversations were in 6 languages. He introduced her as my brilliant friend with global potential. He listened when she spoke. He validated her frustrations. But more dangerously, he made her believe that all of this luxury, attention, reverence, it was not only within reach, it was owed. And soon, the pull became too strong to ignore. The late-night returns to Queens felt suffocating. David's tired eyes and rundown optimism felt like chains. And in the quiet darkness of their shared apartment, she knew her marriage was a memory she had yet to bury. What she didn't know was that David sensed it, too, and he was already preparing to make sure that if she left, she'd never forget what it cost. The suitcase sat by the door for almost an hour before she spoke. Neatly packed, elegant, silent, just like she'd planned everything else. She had waited for the right moment when he seemed calm, when the mood was neutral, when she could speak without him spiraling. But the truth, when it came, didn't land gently. "I'm leaving," she said flatly. David looked up slowly from the couch as if the words reached him underwater. She kept going. "I'm moving to Dubai with Abdul." She didn't say love. She didn't say sorry. For a moment, David didn't speak. His eyes moved to the coffee table where a bowl of keys sat. Her keys, her life, all of it ready to step out of his. "So that's it?" he asked, voice low and eerie in its control. 3 years of everything, and that's it? She didn't answer. She didn't need to. Every silence between them had already said it. But she didn't see the file sitting on the far end of the table, a folder full of photographs, credit card statements, and handwritten notes. David had known for months. He had followed her, watched her, documented it all with the quiet, obsessive precision of someone unraveling. There was a receipt from a boutique, silk purchased in cash, a signed insurance policy with her forged signature, and notes about the storage unit he hadn't mentioned since their move. She turned, suitcase in hand, ready to leave the man who had built his tired dreams around her ambitions. But what Imani didn't know was that David had already decided what would happen next. He didn't yell or argue that night. He didn't cry. Instead, he told her calmly they should have one last conversation in the storage space to divide what was left, emotionless, businesslike, cold. She agreed. She didn't feel threatened. She had already emotionally left months ago. She had no way of knowing that in less than 48 hours, that same suitcase would still be packed, untouched, while one half of her body floated down the Hudson River, wrapped in silk and secrets. The storage facility on Northern Boulevard was quiet when she arrived, nearly empty at that hour, just a few flickering overhead lights humming against the silence. David was already there, standing beside the open roll-up door of their unit, his face unreadable in the pale lighting. Inside, it looked like a slice of their former life: half-packed boxes, an old bookshelf, a lamp they never used. She stepped in without hesitation, suitcase still in her grip, thinking this was just the final scene of a life she'd already left behind. David closed the door slowly behind them. The sound echoed like a final seal. "I just want to talk," he said, and she noticed how calm his voice was, too calm. She started to speak, to say something polite and firm and final, but that's when she saw the crowbar. It had been tucked behind the boxes, laid out with quiet intention. She froze. "What are you doing?" she asked, breath already catching. David didn't reply. He only stared, as if memorizing her the way you look at someone for the last time. "You think you can disappear into luxury and leave me in pieces? You don't get to do that, not without consequence." She backed away, dropping the suitcase, heart racing, realizing too late that there was nowhere to run. The first blow knocked her off her balance, crashing into a steel shelf. A scream never came. The second silenced her. The third sealed her fate. David worked with the precision he once reserved for computer systems, measured, methodical, detached. For the next 6 hours, he didn't flinch. He didn't cry. He wrapped what remained of her in the same silk he had seen her flaunt online in Dubai. He placed the diamond bracelet back on her wrist. He made her image match the narrative he wanted: a wealthy mistress destroyed by another man's secrets. By the time the river took her, he had erased every fingerprint, burned the evidence, and stepped back into the world like a grieving husband. No one suspected. Not yet. But the truth, like the tide, never stays buried for long. The morning her body was found, the silence of the Hudson shattered beneath flashing sirens and shaken reporters. Word spread quickly: human remains wrapped delicately in silk, marked by the kind of jewelry that doesn't drift unnoticed. The diamond tennis bracelet, gleaming under cold October light, told investigators more than her ID ever could. This wasn't random. This was personal. By noon, the name Imani Roswell hit the news cycle, and within hours, the world was watching. At first, suspicion turned in one direction. Sheikh Abdul Al-Zaimani, a foreign billionaire, the last known man to be publicly linked to her. The media devoured the scandal: beautiful young woman, forbidden affair, violent end. Social feeds exploded. The tabloids called her a runaway princess, a victim of foreign love gone wrong. Protesters gathered outside his Manhattan residence, but Abdul remained calm. Through his attorneys, he cooperated fully, turning over messages, alibis, and surveillance footage. More importantly, he had already broken things off with Imani, weeks before she returned to the city. Detective Sarah Kalinsky was the first to see the inconsistencies. The wrapping was too theatrical, the silk too traceable. The bracelet, left so visibly, seemed like a breadcrumb, not a cover-up. It wasn't concealment, it was performance, and performances always have a director. The break in the case came from an unexpected corner: a boutique in Lower Manhattan. A clerk remembered the man who bought the fabric, awkward, hesitating, paid in cash. Surveillance footage showed him clearly: David Roswell, the grieving, jilted husband who had spoken at Imani's memorial with trembling hands and hollow eyes. From there, the threads unraveled fast: forged insurance documents, receipts, traffic cam footage near the river at 4 a.m., and then, finally, the confession. Cold, calculated, unapologetic. David didn't cry when he told investigators what he did. He explained it like a spreadsheet, like closing a file. Asked if he regretted it, he shook his head. "She took everything," he said. "I just made sure she didn't take the future too." And with that, the story came full circle. Not of a woman who wanted too much, but of a man who believed she owed him forever.